It's almost like you just say, well, amen, and we will dismiss. No, that was so. Thank you so much for everybody coming. I really appreciate that. We got a couple chairs. If you got chairs open next to you, there's some chairs over here. My buddy Ron's in the back. We got 1, 2, 3. I see 4 right there, a couple over there. Or you can stay in the back so you can make a quick exit if it's boring. But there are, so we got seriously, we got a couple right there, and come on up instead of doing those things. But I really do appreciate everybody coming out. This is amazing to see so many people. Did you hear about the double your money back offer that the library has? Like, if you don't like this talk, you get double your money back. I mean, well, I'm just telling the truth. Too bad the Browns didn't offer that, huh? So we're going to talk about a couple of different things, and I will take some questions. Roberta will be right back. You're going to, just curious, how many of you ever heard her sing and that have been here? All right, 1 or 2. Then the rest of you are in for a treat because she's not in the room, so I could really brag on her. 10 years classical voice training, and has sung in some of the toughest prisons around, too, with me. So we're really blessed about that. And so anyway, come on in, everybody. We got places to sit. So we're about that. So anyway, the big thing I always like to start with, I am so grateful to be able to write sports in my home area, Northeast Ohio. You know, I grew up in Parma and then later in Northfield and lived in Newburgh Heights also. But where I really realized how just important it is when, kind of like a baseball player, I went to the, quote, minor leagues in media to be able to, get a better job. So I worked in Greensboro, North Carolina. I worked in Savannah, Georgia. Then I got a chance to go to Baltimore, do the Orioles, and then I came to the Pine Dealer the first time to I did the Tribes. Hard to believe there ever was a baseball writer before Paul Hoynes, but I'm it. I mean, think about it. Paul is, let's put it this way, I'm at 70, and he's north of 70. And he's been doing it since 1984. So that's a long time. But then again, I was doing it before him. But the thing is so blessing to me is when I was in those other places like Baltimore. In 79, the Orioles won, I think, 103 games. They went to the World Series. By the way, I believe I am the only writer whose, quote, home team was up 3-1 in the World Series and lost in 2 different cities. Baltimore did and Cleveland did. And I have to admit, when the Tribe had the Cubs down 3-1 and they lost that game 3-2, I go, oh, I got a really bad feeling. I have seen this before. And so that was a thing there. But it was very interesting covering the Orioles and going to being around Earl Weaver, Hall of Fame manager. It was like going to kind of the MIT of baseball, because he was the guy that invented, you see these batting averages of pitchers versus hitters, the individual one. He invented that stat. He was the one that first to come up with it. And where everything else was for those lefty righties. But so it was cool to learn all that, but really it meant a lot more to me to be around the teams that I grew up with, whether it was actually covering a championship in 2016 with LeBron. It was one of the amazing things, because how many times have we been to games, watched them or whatever, where it's a huge playoff game or something, it's in Cleveland, Game 7 even with the Cubs, and of course the visiting team comes in, they knock off the Cleveland team, they take over the place. But in 2016 in the Oakland's Oracle Arena, where it was the Cavaliers who were down 3-1, and no other NBA team ever in the finals had come back from a 3-1 deficit to win the next 3 games and win the title. And the Cavs did that. And I just remember watching those fans, the Golden State, San Francisco, Oakland fans, trudging out. You know that look. Oh, team lost. And then there must have been about 1,000, seemed like, Cleveland fans, or at least probably transplanted Northeast Ohio people in the Bay Area, and they kind of rimmed around the court, and they just start chanting afterwards, "Let's go Cavs, let's go Cavs." I remember sitting there writing while this is going on, going, this is unbelievable. I never thought I'd see this. And it was so, by the way, that game, this is kind of a inside journalism thing. So I remember I had to be in about 18 minutes after it was over to be done. So first thing is like, you do want to get the score right. The second thing, it's a close game. So I actually, on my computer screen, had two stories going, one with them winning and one with them losing. Because what you discover in journalism is there's no such thing as a late great story. If it's late, can't be great because you missed the deadline. And in fact, I could tell other people around the area were all, because about every 2 minutes you hear somebody yell, it was 93-89, right? Because the last thing you want to do is, again, mess that up. And it was so much fun. And the neat thing that also came out of that was Father's Day, big family thing going anyway. And also what I really remember was people suddenly in this internet age wanted the newspaper with that story in it. And we sold over 530,000 copies of that page and that section. And then we did extra ones too of the championship. They were lining up. And you know what was fine to see was that because you can't put a website up on the wall. And even if you print it out, it isn't the same as, Cavs win title and big picture of LeBron or whatever. And it just as an old newspaper guy, I was old in 2016, so I don't know, I'm an ancient scribe now. It really meant a lot to me to see that. And I think it meant a lot to people of a certain age to have that paper in their hand. And I'm thankful now that we have all kinds of different ways of media, whether it's podcasts with David Campbell's my boss, he does the podcast. Never insult David Campbell, even if you don't like me, that's okay. Don't say anything bad about David, he's my boss, who does that podcast, and he does all the technical stuff. If you haven't listened to it, you can pick it up. If you don't like podcasts, I get it. I'm not worried about that. But I'm grateful for those who do listen to it. Or, online. Now, I've been doing a lot of things for years that kind of became in vogue with the internet, scribbles in my notebook. I did that a long, long time ago. Hal Lebowitz had a form of it. If you really want to go back to the book of Proverbs. They have all those. That's scribbles in a Jewish notebook from 3,000 years ago. He who argues with a fool is a fool. That's one of those, a paraphrase. All those kind of things. It's in there. I'm not kidding. And also, it still holds. Oh, I wanted to tell you today, I did write about this. I did talk to Bernie on the phone this morning. He got back to me. And I'll tell you, he was just thanking everybody for their prayers and this. He nearly died over the weekend because he was having so much bleeding. And I'm not going to go into great detail, out of his mouth, out of his nose, all kinds of places. And the liver had failed, and he was waiting for a transplant. But they can't do the transplant with all the bleeding. How are they going to cut you open for a 5 to 8 hour operation when you're bleeding all over the place? So they're doing all these procedures. And finally, early Saturday afternoon, they finally got where the bleeding stopped. Then it had to be down for, 36 hours or something like that. And it stopped. And they were amazed it stopped. It was a God thing, I would say. Then Monday morning, they took him in, and they did the surgery, and it went really well. And he was talking to me this morning. He goes, I can't believe this is. And his voice sounded so strong. Or before, it was raspy. It was bad. And some of you may have seen the videos that his friend Jim McCarthy, Jim and I are also good friends too, were posting. And, even though he looked like he just about died burning his voice, he is staying strong. You know what he was doing? Almost walking in faith that I would come out on this and the other end. I'm going to stay there. And so now he's very excited because he sees himself as I could now help people who went through or going through this transplant thing in much the same way for the last 14 years of Jimmy Donovan's life. He helped people dealing with leukemia and other forms of cancer because Jimmy went through a lot. There's a couple chapters in my new book on Jimmy. I dedicated the book to Jimmy. I mean, if anybody was stuck watching this miserable team, it was him. We used to, Joe Tate used to say Herb Score saw more bad baseball than anybody. Jim Donovan really saw more bad football than anybody. He came on in 1999, and I was talking to some of you before when I was signing books, and with Bernie, and Bernie is so special because it's really the last time the Browns were any good. I mean, really for like more than a year. They haven't had back-to-back winning seasons since the late 80s. I mean, Bernie was here 8 years, 5 times they went to the playoffs. That's really good. That's part of the reason I wrote the book Vintage Browns, was I thought it was so unfortunate that era is defined by the drive and the fumble and that. Those guys were good, and they were good guys, and it was it was watchable. That's one thing, is can the Browns at least be watchable? And somebody once said, well, when they're bad, they're awful. When they're good, they're excruciating. I mean, it's a line I wish I'd written, but the fact is, I'll take excruciating if it means going to the playoffs, and I'll take it if it's a quarterback that I have some confidence in, and I'll take all that. Instead, all we do is just take it right now. That's kind of how it goes. All right, Roberta is here. I'm going to let her sing. As you hear, my voice is a little shaky, but hers won't be, I don't think. You ready?
As a deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. You alone are my strength, my shield. To you alone doth my spirit yield. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee.
I think they'd rather just hear you. That'd be no. They want. Oh God, they do. We've been married 48 years, and she just turned 31. Got that, guys? You see how to do that? Yeah. All right, she'll be back. She'll be back in a minute. Well, a few minutes anyway, whenever my voice starts to go. Roberta and I have been doing ministry. We do it now primarily at the Haven Arrest, which is a city mission in Akron. We did it for 20 years at Summit County Jail from 2000 to 2020. Pandemic hit, and then after that they changed a bunch of rules, and we also were getting really heavy into some elder care, and so some things had to go. And the Haven Arrest was, they really wanted us there, so we've been doing that. And her voice is something that you could just tell. I mean, that some of the toughest guys just shut up and listen to it. We had this guy last night at the Haven, his brother kept yelling, "She be an angel. She an angel. I tell you right now." I mean, it's good, bro. Yes, she is. Yeah, you tell him. I said, I did. But it was fine, and it was a lot of fun. The faith column that I write, Faith in You, it's I know some people get mad at the Plain Dealer for the editorial page or this or that, but the Plain Dealer, and before that, the Akron Beacon Journal started in 2000 at the Akron Beacon Journal with Jan Leach, an editor there. You will rarely find, if anywhere, a major city website or whatever, a column like that with a Judeo-Christian base. It's not everything's all created equal, because I said I'm just going to be writing what I think and that. And they, both papers really supported me. In fact, when the Plain Dealer recruited me in 2007 to come, it was like, I really wanted to go because I sensed that I grew up in Cleveland, so that was one. And I enjoyed being at the Beacon Journal. I mean, we were getting sold, and it was really rough. I mean, I could tell that I needed to get somewhere where it was just a little stronger, job preservation. And I said, well, look, if you don't take the faith column, I'm not going, because I just think God had opened a special door. And they, oh, no, it's fine. I'm like, good. Okay, we're in. Because I wonder if they said no, I'm like, oh, boy, now what? But that was a little bit of a walk out on faith, because at that point, I'm 52 years old. Where are you going to go? And we didn't want to move. We've lived in the same house in West Akron for 40-some years. Is it 40? 40, yeah. She's the one that's redone the whole house and made it nice. I just go there and mess things up. So, but I'm really, Roberta's worked on all of our books, and it's our books. It's not my books together. Whether it's first edits, sometimes it's doing a lot of transcription of interviews, trying to check facts, all of those things. And sometimes, well, what do you, some people say, what do you do? I'm a housewife or whatever. No, we have a business. And the reason I've been able to not only write the books, but still writing now, she does the first edit, I would say like a 95% of my stories, because I need an editor. I always have. So marry one is a really good move. And I knew that even before we got married, because she was already doing that. I don't remember when we were looking for a job when I was coming out of Cleveland State, I remember you writing all those, typing all those resumes. I don't know, 30, 40. Huh? Yeah, just typing, because, there's a different thing. Was it typewriter? It's hard to believe that. That was back when I went to work by Stagecoach, so it was a while ago. But the neat thing that God has opened the door for the faith column is that I really believe that at least a third or more of the people that read me go, oh, I never go to church or synagogue, but I read that. That's because they probably have maybe a kid in their family who's driving them nuts, and I write about that sometimes. Or they're in an elder care situation, or maybe they're in an elder care situation with a kid who's driving them nuts. As my friend Bishop Joey Johnson from the largest black church in Akron, Bishop Joey's my best friend, he always says, stop me when I'm lying. Because, hey, this stuff is real. In fact, every time now that I speak, I bring this up, because I've run into so many parents or grandparents or whatever, they're beating themselves up about a kid that's been, shall we say, having some trouble. And they often forget that they have other kids who are not. And by that I mean, if you've got 4 kids and 3 are on death row, we have a problem. But I remember this from our prison ministry days, and sometimes even the Haven Arrest, meet a parent or whoever is kind of the guardian, and they'll say, well, she's been going through all this. This is a story that I couldn't even make up, because it just illustrates the point. One day, Roberta and I walk into the jail, and at the front door, there's a deputy, and she has a computer. We've known her for years. You go through the metal detectors, all that. And she goes, Terry, come here. And she showed up on the screen of the computer was this younger woman, but you could tell had the meth look, the teeth, the whole eye thing going. And she whispers, that's my daughter. I'm like, oh, how about that? You're working at, and she was like a sergeant or something, and your daughter's in the county. I mean, this is really sad. And I'm like, all right, Lord, what do you say? And I just sort of threw out, well, do you have any other kids? She said, yeah, she was a twin. I said, all right, Lord, do I do it? Okay, what's the other one doing? Oh, she's a teacher. She's, all this. So I said, you got 2, born 10 minutes apart. I said, I assume you had them both. Yeah, I said, maybe the one you're staring at, beating yourself up with, made her own call. Because you clearly gave enough guidance to the other one. I mean, some of us have to realize by the time they're about 6, you really can't make them do much of anything. After you can't, when they're younger, you can pick them up and put them somewhere. Even that sometimes is a challenge. But when they get older, they get older. Now you try to influence them. And then we start, we had a divorce or this happened. I mean, stuff happens. I'm really serious about this. Some of us, I could see in the faces, quit beating yourself up. And the other thing is, if you have some other kids who are doing well, they really don't want to hear a lot about the troubles of the troubled kid. It's hard not to go there, but they don't want to hear it. They're tired of that. Just love on them. You can do this. And you know what it'll do? It'll lift your own heart. Ooh, this is the other thing my friend Bishop Joey says. Now here's how it works, Terry. Like if you're in the white church and you're getting deep in the house, it gets real quiet. Now if you're in our church, it gets real loud. Either way, as he says, you're getting into the kitchen there, that's getting deep. But it is. But it's something to think of. I write about this periodically just because I know I run into so many parents who are just doing this. I'm not going to dwell any more on it, but I wonder how many people how many times do you ever hear somebody tell you that? And that's part of it. We pray for them, you hope for the best, but you can't make them do anything. And it's not a reflection on you because they made a bunch of stupid decisions, especially if you have some other people that you had influence on and they did very well. It's just the way sometimes people play it. Some people majoring in making life hard. I got one of them in my own family, and I'll just leave it at that. I mean, they just do. So let's just kind of keep that. And then the other thing that is kind of cool about the faith column is a lot of people write in. I mean, this is the one that shocked me the most. I wrote about my friend Gloria, and she had passed away a couple years ago. I'm going to try, was it 6th? October 6th? Yeah, 2 years ago, October 6th. And so on the 2-year anniversary, because Gloria was like a sister, Roberta and I, she worked at Walmart. She used to sing gospel songs like she was putting up the shoes and that. I mean, she couldn't drive. She had some things there, but they really were great to her at the Fairlawn Walmart for that. And then she had dealt with epilepsy for years and years, serious case of epilepsy, and she had a major seizure, and that's what took her home. But so on her 2-year anniversary, some of us got together, decided to go to the cemetery. I'm not big on cemeteries. Decided to do this, and so we kind of prayed there, told Gloria stories and that kind of stuff. It was really nice. So I wrote a faith column about this, and just at the bottom put in, just curious, do you go to cemeteries? I had no clue what was coming. The last thing I saw was 238 emails. Isn't that really interesting? Some people go, some people they don't go there, but they actually in their backyard kind of made a little thing. And they like to go because they said it's quiet. And the nice thing, too, is when you're, say, driving out there to go see, you start telling stories about that person, that kind of stuff. It opened up a whole other world. See, this is the things I do get from that column is, just kind of what people are thinking. A lot of people write me in about their different struggles they're having. And I just love that part. So we do have a couple of faith books, but that wasn't really a pitch for that. Really, I just wanted to kind of, first of all, talk to parents about that thing. And secondly, if you like to go to cemetery, hey, you're in the majority from what I could tell. but it is because it's quiet and all that other stuff. And then you look at the other tombstones, and it's pretty neat. Like I went to the cemetery at Antietam, battlefield of Antietam, and they not only had a little area for Confederate soldiers. There was a bigger one farther away. Antietam was the bloodiest single day in American history. I forgot how many casualties were, 18,000 or some crazy number. And how many? 23. I knew there'd be one Civil War guy here to help me. And it's, by the way, if you've never been there, it's outside of Hagerstown. in Maryland, go. It really has still that old feel to it, has some great trails around it. Not too far from there, the Appalachian Trail goes through there, which goes through a couple, they call them minor battlefields. Well, only 800 died over here. I mean, that's, like the junior varsity game a few days before Antietam. Well, where I'm going with this is they actually had some revolutionary soldiers were buried in that cemetery, primarily Union, and then there's a few Confederates, there's another there. And I just found that so, I don't know, moving to me. So that was a neat thing. And we're going to let Roberta sing again while I'm going to get my brain together for our last part before the questions begin. Go.
I've been thinking of this song all day, so maybe I'll just sing this one. I love the Lord. He heard my cry and pitied every groan. Long as I live and troubles rise, I'll hasten to his throne. 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 Amen.
Okay. All right, you're wondering what this is? This is the draft board the year the Browns took Johnny Manziel. You see how confusing it is? Johnny right there looking very sharp doing the money thing. I mean, all right. Our friend Gory actually made that up. It was like when we're when we're feeling all kinds of anxious things and that in our head, all this stuff running through, but it's a good cheap laugh here. All right, put them down over there. Okay. Bring out what's the other one? Yeah, here we go again. Okay. A lot of times what we have here, I was telling a couple of people in line, one guy said, I remember Otto Graham, or I remember the 64 title game. It's like when Browns fans get together, it's like some recovery group, My name is Terry. I started covering the Browns or following the Browns in 1961. I was in my friend's basement, which was true when they won the title in 1964 because Art Modell blacked it out on TV, which also is true. And I used to cover the Tribe. I did the Orioles. I did the Cavs. I became a columnist in 1993, just in time for Bill Belichick to cut Bernie Kosar. And I've been dealing with the Browns ever since. So I actually identify a lot with that other generation. And then, so suddenly, how many times? Right on next year. Or it's funny, we're putting together, David Gray, is he here or did he go run and hide? Well, my publisher, David Gray, was here for a while. And so we're getting ready for this book. And David also publishes my faith books. And so, he's a publisher. He's got money on the line. And, the title of the book is, Will They Ever Find a Quarterback? And he says, around July, what if they do this year? It would be a miracle. You're right. But no, it's just going to be, here we go. I mean, at that point, you had Joe Flacco, you had Kenny Pickett, you had Shador, and you had Dylan Gabriel. You got 4, you got none. That was kind of how. So I said, we're good on this one, David. I'm not worried. This is about as close to a bulletproof book in terms of the title as we could get, because it kind of is going to look like this. And then, bring him out. Not the old, bring him. Oh, this is how the quarterbacks have kind of looked this year. and these are just different things we used to use for prison ministry and that stuff too. But it's, wow, Shadur's like, man, they hit hard. So, all right, we need a question. The first question has to come from a lady. Today, ladies, I'm going to do, I used to teach class at Lincoln West to get, there we go. I learned to just stand there. Yes! Before we start, Roberta, bring the books out, let her choose. Ladies, you blew it. You didn't. You get a free book. All right. What do we have here? We have Browns Blues. Is there any other kind? Okay. Vintage Browns. The Man with the Sign. Faith in You. All right. What's your name? Karen, what do you want? No, what book you want? If you don't, I'm going to give it to somebody else. Do you like Faith or Browns? Which one? Faith book. All right, give her this one. All right, pass it back. There we go. All right. Ladies, just don't, now keep in mind what you just saw. All right. What's your question? That is a question, actually, that the beginning discussions on what kind of book I was going to write was why are Browns fans so loyal? I mean, there's a bunch of old lines. If the Browns were a restaurant, everybody would have died of ptomaine poisoning. I mean, you could just go on and on those kind of things. But so I started that way, getting kind of people in, but then I was reading some of the stuff, especially I used to be here, but now, what it's been then. And then so suddenly, and the quarterback theme began coming in from different emails, and it kind of went in that direction. But the book does have a bunch of emails from fans trying to explain the unexplainable in that. But primarily, I think it's just family. They're hearing stories about Bernie Kosar, Frank Ryan, or whatever, even though they're not involved. One guy, I love this. This is an email that I got about 15 years ago. He says, when my Irish relatives decided to come to America, did they stay in New York when they got off the Ellis Island? No. Did they maybe go to Baltimore? Did they go to Pittsburgh? No. They had to go on the banks of Lake Erie, right, where Moses Cleveland got off, and stick our family here and stick us with the Browns. It's kind of like you got this weird uncle in the closet that, that's the football team there. And I cannot explain it other than that. There's a lot of, we would get together on Sunday and Mom would make pierogies or that kind of thing, or we'd grill out and do barbecue. It is amazing. Now, I don't know for this year, but I know going into 2024, the Browns had 8,000 names on a waiting list for season tickets. I think it went down. But still, 8,000? It's just incredible. I once wrote several years ago, Browns fans got so mad at their team, they stopped going to Tribe games. I mean, it's just, think about that for a minute. That was back one of the years when, they won a bunch of games, but they didn't sell out that much. But it is really fun. I mean, can you imagine if the Browns, like in the last, 13 years, if the Browns had won like 5 division titles and gone to the playoffs 7 times and had 2 losing seasons and 1 trip to the Super Bowl? By the way, that's the Tribe from when Tito came in to the second thing with Stephen Vogt. They'd be building statues. Cheap or not. I like the way that, Haslam spent a lot of money. They want to win. Just because you spend a lot of money doesn't mean you know how to win. In fact, people that win the lottery show how little they know with a whole bunch of money. Okay, another question. Who's up? Guess what?
What's your thoughts on the new stadium that they want to build and what that'll do to ticket sales and such?
The new stadium. Oh, Roberta, guess what? Which book do you want? We got Browns, Blues, Faith. She'll take a Faith book. Okay. Yeah, we'll give her the sign. Okay. All right, the stadium situation. I used to think that you could put a empty orange helmet on the 50-yard line and 50,000 people will pay $20 to look at it. I can't. We're into this unexplained area. I mean, the Haslams were gonna get that thing done in the dome regardless. I happen to think that that stadium right on the lakefront like that, maybe it's because I've been to a bunch of places where they have nice lakefronts. I thought that was a waste of real estate. That didn't mean you had to go to Brook Park. I mean, there's a bunch of areas in Cleveland proper you could have put it. I mean, I know Cleveland State would love to get rid of that Wolstein Center and all that area right there. Interstate's there. So, you know, it's funny. It just really became a total political thing and had nothing to do with football. The dome thing is really where it's going. More and more of these places are building domes. And they're, what's that, Roberta? Oh, that's right. All right, this stays in the room. We get this email from one of the higher-ups in my office. We don't call it a dome. We call it a roofed stadium or a indoor facility or something like that. It's not a dome. Okay, I guess that's a dome. I'm talking around it because, you know, this is one of those things people do what people do. Rich people are able to do what they are able to do. And he was determined to do that. And football, they set up their economic system so well that unless your name is Art Modell, you make a ton of money. I mean, it's one of the great mysteries of life. I'm very serious because, see, everything funnels through their national TV contract. The only things that the teams themselves sell, quote unquote, are like the local radio broadcast and the preseason games. But the regular season games, by the way, they'll be playing 18 of them soon. You just wait. Go through all those networks, and they're selling them to Peacock. And I mean, networks I never heard of. You can't find them. But it does. It allows you, whether you're in Green Bay or you're in New England or you're in Cleveland or anywhere else, you got the same shot of winning if you didn't know what you're doing. Which, by the way, is the biggest thing that is really annoying about the Browns. You know, the NBA is a little bit in between those two, and baseball is the opposite way, where it clearly favors, you know, the others. So they got money, they'll build domes, they'll charge a ton of money for it, and they'll get it. That's not real wonderful, but okay. Hang on. All right, in the back, because you know what? All the women are raising their hands here. You guys caught on faster at Hudson than most places.
Question, because we don't get to see how the meat is made. Is Paul DePodesta the actual boogeyman, or does he actually have a hand in the recent woes of the Browns more than we realize?
I was told he was the architect of 1 and 31. You know, get all the draft choices and that. The other big decision, Deshaun Watson, that was a community disaster. It really was. Yeah, he was interested in it. But what really the decision ended up being made by ownership. Because, all right, here's, for example, Roberta and I went to, there's a point to this. I know I'm old, but stay with me for a minute. Roberta and I went to Wyoming, and we rented this. I wanted to get a 4x4 because I knew we were going to go hiking on, we were going to go look for moose and get on some back roads. We found one too, by the way. And this Nissan Rogue was nice. I mean, really nice. I mean, I'm liking this thing. Well, I'm thinking, maybe I ought to get that. But it was like $65,000 or whatever. And I'm like, I'll stay with the Toyota. Okay, you could like the idea of Deshaun Watson. You could like the fact, this is true, before he came to the Browns, he had the highest completion percentage, which was 67%, of any quarterback who had thrown at least 1,500 passes in the NFL. We never saw that guy, but you could like the fact that he had made 3 Pro Bowls. You could like the fact he was 27. He should be just entering his prime, and all that. Then came the price. You have, first of all, a guy who had just signed a 4-year extension with Houston, and after 1 year was demanding to be traded. That would be like the engine lights on. Right there. Then, of course, came the civil suits and all that, which you knew whoever got him would face a suspension. Then came the fact that of the 4 teams that interviewed with him, he kicked Cleveland out first. He didn't want to come up here. The other teams were all New Orleans, Atlanta, and Carolina, I believe. They're all Southern anyway. He's from Atlanta. He preferred. And somebody, one guess only, said, you just call back and you make that deal, whatever it takes. And it took the highest guaranteed contract in NFL history, and it took 6 draft choices, and it took all the pain, and it took enduring all that negative publicity. I had female fans or Browns fans, they were in tears about this, and I don't blame them. I mean, I was out there early. I wrote 2 columns before it even happened. Get away. Run as fast as you can from this one. Because when I kind of began to look into it, and then I saw the contract, I just was stunned. But this is like what we do with utter desperation. Can't find a quarterback, can't find a quarterback. It's like when people are desperate, think about what they do for money, what they do in relationships, what they'll settle for. Ooh, that could be scary too. And so he comes in here. Then it's going to, nobody did the math. That was going to be like, it's exactly 700 days between regular season games that he played and what that takes out of a person. Of course, they're likely to get hurt and all the things that we saw. So, yes, the answer is DePodesta had something to do with that. Andrew Berry has something to do with that. I'm not sure on Kevin Stefanski. But the guy who did it is the owner. Because plan B, and I got this from on top, was if we felt it wasn't going to work with Deshaun, we were just going to keep Baker. But what happened there, then Baker got wind of this, and he wanted to be traded. I tell you, here's how the Guardians would have done business. Well, first of all, they ain't paying that. Secondly, Baker had a year to go on his contract. They just sat him. I said, no, young man, here's the deal. You've been doing this kind of half-second guessing the coach or whatever. That's got to go. You get the surgery. They just shut him down and got the surgery, I'll tell you that, because they don't mess with that stuff. All right, we're getting you healthy. You got a year to go. If you play well, we could pay you a lot of money, or maybe somebody else will. But this is your shot. But don't act like an idiot. And he may still be the quarterback here. It's hard to know. Now, I think it helped Baker when he went to Carolina. He got hurt at Carolina early on, too. He had an ankle sprain. Then he got cut, and he went to the Rams. You get bounced around like that twice, you get your attention. Then he goes to Tampa Bay, and you get the best of both. Baker has a lot of ability. I'm not saying he's great, but I think he's a top 10, 12 quarterback. He's right there. You win a lot of games with this guy. And so now you got where he's focused. He's bought in. He's with a coach. He's been through even, I think, 3 offensive coordinators there. It's incredible, all the different changes he's had. But that was where kind of like there's a fork in the road, and they certainly went the wrong way and stabbed themselves. All right, way in the back, but weren't you? No, hang in there. I remember. You're warming up in the bullpen. Keep that arm loose. All right, go ahead in the blue. if Tim Couch had been a decent coach, absolutely. Yeah, first of all, had they stuck to their plan, this is a typical Browns thing. They signed an older quarterback named Ty Detmer. He would have been like Jacoby Brissett. The plan was Detmer's going to play 5 to 8 games. Tim plays the second half of the season. Well, that lasted 3 quarters. And they brought in Tim the fourth quarter opening day against the Steelers. Bad line. He's getting all beat up. All this stuff happens. And then Tim, I remember, I'm pretty sure it's in this book because there's a thing about Tim Couch. I remember one day we're talking. A great guy, by the way. Couch is just, he loves Cleveland. I mean, he really does. He watches Browns games. I'm serious. He does. He said, I'm not saying I would have been like Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh. He says, but I wonder, what it would be like to have gone to a place like the Steelers, where it's a pretty good team, not all the changes, not all the chaos. Because by the way, in the years 2001 and 2002, he started 30 games, and his record as a starter was 15-15. So you could see he was ascending upward, but his body was going down. I mean, his shoulder and the knee and all this stuff. And I mean, he's had hip replacement, knee replacement. It's just been terrible. You could say he made a lot of money. He did. But, these guys are competitors. They want to be good. They don't just want to, okay, I made a lot of money, but everything was awful. So the answer is, would he have been great? No, but good, yes. Because in 2001 and 2002 with the Browns, that was not the Browns of the 60s or the 80s, and they were 15-15 when he started. You're up.
Made me change my question.
Go ahead.
Because first of all, it was about betting.
Okay.
Okay, the refs, the coaches, the team players. Do you feel it's been going on a long time? We're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. You've been in sports. I'm not as into it as you are.
Betting in sports. Uh-oh. What? I'm giving her a faith book. I did write at least 2 columns, if not more, before that saying the betting thing's going to be bad. In fact, I tell people in my business, do not get involved in sports betting. Now, people, you're free to do it, but it really does impact your coverage. It just does. I mean, it's hard not to get too emotionally involved as it is, much less with money. And the whole thing about legalizing it, I do think it made it more pervasive, because I didn't even realize until this scandal came, first about the first pitch is a ball bet, but I did not also know that you could bet on whether a pitch is 94 miles an hour faster or slower in a parlay. So what Class A was doing, he gave you 2 for the price of 1. He'd bounce that slider over there at 90 miles an hour, so they would bet, it's under 94 miles an hour, and it's a ball. And the old line is they would probably tell Class A, and who gets hurt? It's 1 pitch, 1 ball. The problem is they hooked these guys in, and the next thing you know is like they want something bigger, and the player says, I'm not going to do it. They go, hey, bro, 1 call to the commissioner's office, and you're done. I'm playing rough here. I mean, you're with the mob. I mean, I read that stuff with Chauncey Billups in these poker games, and he's there with guys named Tommy the Juice, the Doc. I mean, it was right there, Pookie. Everybody has Pookie. I don't think she was a woman. I think she walked around behind and looked at everybody's cards and gave hand signals. And they also had all kinds of things. It was crazy. They used Chauncey Billups, an NBA Hall of Famer, an NBA coach, to hook these guys into these games. And Billups, this is according to the FBI, was in with the mobsters, and they would lose money, and they would get to know Chauncey, and, did Chauncey give inside information? I don't know. I could tell you this, more than a player, a coach or a GM knows a lot of inside information. That's the problem with this. A couple people asked me before, do you think Class A through the playoffs in 2024? I mean, none of the stuff's come out about that, but I mean, the stat that's alarming is he allowed 2 home runs in the entire regular season, and he allowed 3 in the playoffs. But I will say this. I remember I'm a rookie baseball writer in Baltimore with Earl Weaver, and we're by the batting cage. He says, Terry, I want you to watch something. He goes, I think Cal Ripken Sr. was a coach. He's throwing batting practice. You just throwing the ball like, 65 miles an hour. He says, watch this. Even with Cal throwing the ball down there down middle, he had me for a while like, let's pretend, is that a hit or an out? And that was like a double. That's a pop-up. That's a grounder. Like every fourth or fifth pitch might be hit out. The point being, if they had somebody else that there'd be more, even if you're throwing it down the middle, like if you see a home run derby, you don't necessarily hit it out. That's why it's harder to fix that. But single pitches, all that stuff, and then they go, oh, well, we're going to get tough on it. We're going to limit those bets to $200. Are you kidding me? How many avenues are there to bet in sports? 5, 10? You just go all the different places for $200. Yeah, they're real gutsy. Nice move. So, yeah, they are. That is actually. Well, that would be. They have shut down some betting on different things. I know that because of the other stuff there. Yeah, but the next big place will be college basketball. All right, over in the corner.
Could you talk about Joe Flacco this year with the Browns and with the Bengals?
Well, let's see. Flacco with the Bengals is Flacco with the Browns in 23, and Flacco with the Browns is like everybody else with the Browns of late. It shows two things. Number one is the line is bad. We were talking about that. Your highest paid people on your offensive line should be your tackles. The Browns' highest paid are their guards and centers. Conklin's made a fair amount of money, but actually they keep bringing him back on cheaper contracts because he keeps getting hurt, And the other tackle is just whomever. And now I looked it up, but it's not gospel. Pro Football Focus does a pretty good job of rating these lines. And the offensive line, they rated the Bengals as the 28th best line, and the Browns were 32nd. So it's not like he went to one of these powerhouse places. Now, he has better receivers, and I really think they called plays that were better suited for him. And, I'll tell you one thing. When Joe gets hot, it is so much fun. That might have been there's two, since I covered the Browns, say from 93 on, there were 2 seasons to me that were a lot of fun. 20 was the pandemic season, but just to see them come and win and beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, there's like 5 people in the stands, but still, a win is a win in Pittsburgh. You don't throw any of those out. And then the second was Flacco coming in to save the season a couple years ago and watching that, winning those games with all those different quarterbacks, and it was just a lot of fun. I have to admit, I am totally dumbfounded on Stefanski, who's had a strong record with other quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett, he was 4-7 was his record here when he filled in for Deshaun. They were 10th in scoring that year with Jacoby. The problem is the defense stunk, but he played fine. He got a lot of mileage out of Flacco. Baker had a great year in 20 with them, then 21 got hurt, and then they backed off. You can go back to when he was in Minnesota. Case Keenum had a big year. I mean, he's had success. And since opening day of 2014, well, first of all, they've played, I believe, 17, played 27 games. Only 5 times have they scored more than 17 points. I mean, that's just right there. And they've led the NFL in passes attempted per game in that span, which just makes no sense. We got bad quarterbacks, so let's throw as much as we can. Okay.
I think we have time for like 1 or 2 real quick ones.
Okay,
So I'm gonna
she's
leave
in
time.
charge. Yes, you're over there. You. I always come to make people cry. You have a 23-year-old son? You're 27? It's amazing what God's doing with these women here. Yes. I need to be apologizing to him. He made him a Browns fan. Mom, I'll tell you, I want to make you feel better. If that's the only thing you have to apologize to him for, you got it made. Hope for the Browns. I mean, I'm very serious. I mean, we've seen these glimmers periodically. The system is set up to help teams like the Browns. It's not in the Bible, but God only helps those who help themselves. It really is. And so that's a big thing there. They just need to start to get it right. And, well, you know, they'll probably fire everybody else and try it again. I don't know. Getting a quarterback would really help, but it's also a whole approach. The offensive line has been mentioned here. I mean, for a while they were firing everybody. That didn't work. And I wish I had a better answer, other than the fact that you could turn it around faster in the NFL, at least get to be, as I would say, watchable, 9-8, 8-9, there than in the other sports. It's harder in basketball because basketball, remember how if you have one star, he dominates the game like nobody else. Like when you have LeBron, I mean, LeBron went to the finals 8 consecutive years, 4 in Miami and 4 in Cleveland. I mean, it's just unprecedented. You know, I have to go back to like Bill Russell or for something like that. Because like in football, you have a great quarterback, but he doesn't play defense. In baseball, you have a great pitcher, but he doesn't pitch every day or whatever. You have a great hitter, but he doesn't pitch. But a basketball player, that's why only fewer play 5 at a time there. But football, you still can do this if you have an idea what you're doing. And I don't have an idea what they're doing right now, so we're going to see. On that upbeat note, yeah, I do. Roberta is going to sing the last song. All right, one last question, and Roberta sings. Yes?
I just followed the Browns for a long time, and this year I'm so disappointed because I don't see anything good. I don't see special teams good. I don't see defense good. I don't see offense good. Can you give me any hope?
Actually, the defense is pretty good. I'm very serious. They're out there for 50 years. I mean, you start breaking it down, they are pretty good. That's what I can give you. All right, we have to go, but Roberta's going to sing, and I will be in the other room signing books. Okay, Roberta.